Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 655. My name is Kyle.
My name is James.
And my name is Zach.
And we're here to talk movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. Happy Halloween, guys.
Is this what's happening right now?
Yeah, I thought we were all wearing costumes today.
Is that a shark?
Yeah, it's a shark onesie.
Okay.
Nice.
Sure. Are you going to do the whole podcast with this?
I hope so.
Well, considering I cannot see my computer screen, no.
What do you need your computer screen for?
My list?
Sure. I thought you had it memorized by now.
No, it's also quite warm in this thing. So
I imagine.
Oh, Kyle, you don't have your list memorized?
No, do you have your list memorized?
Well, I was actually going to go for the Kyle's List trophy today.
Oh, you're going to memorize my list and then repeat it back to me? Okay.
James, hopefully you've made my graphic.
I did. It was ready to
Awesome.
go, but now we can't do it because Kyle can't confirm that you're right because he can't look at his list.
Yep. Sorry.
No, I meant my graphic for the last trophy I got.
What trophy did you get?
Remember, I did it for Jordan Peele.
No, you.
Oh, you did do the Jordan Peele. No, he did.
With years and everything?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did it.
I
All
thought you
three
were
movies.
wrong with one of them.
No, no, I was not wrong.
I'm gonna have to listen back. What episode was that?
Please do. I want my trophy.
I don't remember what episode that was. What else did we talk about?
I have no idea.
I mean, I want to give you your trophy, but I have to confirm
What?
with the rules keepers that
You
did.
have confirmed by being there when it happened.
I don't
believe
remember that.
We are the rules keepers. There's no third party to certify this.
Kyle can confirm.
Yes.
I don't believe
I
him.
can confirm you did it.
Look at Kyle and tell me if I should believe him right now.
Wait,
I can't. He's hidden
Look,
behind.
that's
shark
what I'm
costume.
saying.
Look me in the eye.
This is a very serious human being, clearly, that I should respect.
This isn't even my shark onesie.
Whose is it?
It's Megan's.
Okay.
And then Galen got jealous that she had one, so now he has one also.
So you're the only one that doesn't have one, sounds like.
No, I don't need to wear onesies.
But
Well, apparently you do.
But you are wearing one.
Well, only for major holidays, and it's movie themed because I'm Bruce the Shark from Jaws. Can't you tell?
We should do a Halloween episode where we dress up. Why have we not done that yet?
We're doing. Why aren't you guys dressed up?
Because nobody said we were going to do that.
Ugh, I thought it's implied.
Next year.
All right.
Year. Would you do that, Zach? Would you dress up for the podcast?
I don't really have dress up clothes.
I don't either, but I could come up with something. I could throw something together. You can't throw something together?
Maybe.
Given a year preparation. You go to enough garage sales, you could find something out there.
Maybe. I do like garage sales.
When's the last time you dressed up for Halloween? Zach?
Oh, we dress up every year. I think last year I was Mr. Smee and everyone else was Peter Pan characters.
Mr.
you
Mr.
could've been
I can't
Smee.
dress up for the podcast dresses up every year.
Yeah. Yeah. But the Mr. Smee costume doesn't really work without the whole Peter Pan crew.
You can just be a pirate.
It didn't look very much like a pirate.
Oh, okay. So it was a poor costume.
Or
That was
just
pretty
be Smee, and it's a bad costume. Nobody
All right,
said they had to be good costumes.
I'll be Smee. Yeah, Kyle's shark certainly wasn't good.
I already
This
have a costume. I'll
The,
just
the highest quality shark onesie you can buy on Instagram.
Is that really a onesie? Is that the word for it?
Yeah, I'm in it.
Oh, it's okay. I thought it was like a towel or something.
No, like a hood. No, you can here. There's my feet.
Do you want us to give you a few minutes to take that off? Or do
Your
you want-
family owns 2 of those?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, that is
It's
amazing.
awesome.
It is hilarious when you watch. Like I'll come home and both Galen and Megan are in their onesies on the couch, and it's adorable.
I think that I would really not enjoy being in a onesie like that. It feels so constricting.
Well, yeah. So this doesn't
That's the
have
point.
legs. It's just like it's like a mermaid tail on the bottom, and that's
No.
it's. Yeah, I had to come downstairs and then put it on because I was gonna kill myself on the steps.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's if you want to feel like a shark or a mermaid, this is the onesie to wear.
Sure. I think next year I'll dress up like a cowboy. I'll just put a bandana on, and that's it.
Okay, here's an idea. What if we all get just a bandana to wear, and then like you have to come out with a cowboy, pirate. I don't know. I'll be like a
Pirates
Grabber.
Texas
wear bandanas?
bartender. I'll wear it across my chest or something. We'll make it work.
Sure. Yeah. I could see it. Welcome to the podcast. We're going to talk about not a horror movie, but a movie filled with horrific things.
Yeah.
It's a true crime story. So they're real life things that we're not going to make light of or anything, but, you know. So would you call this a suspense movie we're going to talk about this week?
Yeah.
Okay. True crime
Yeah.
suspense.
At times.
Is this considered true crime or just a story based on a real life incident?
I would call it true crime. Just,
I
mean, go ahead, Zach.
I've never heard of true crime in the context of anything except for documentary type
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
What about Zodiac? Was that a true crime movie?
No.
It was a movie about a true crime, but they don't define the genre that way, I don't think.
So then, is true crime just documentaries and podcasts?
I
I
don't know.
think so. Yeah. I've just never heard it in the context of anything except a documentary, movie, or podcast. Or
Okay.
book.
Yeah.
Right, because this is a narrative movie where it's definitely taking elements of the true crime, but also telling its own version of the story.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, I can guarantee you she didn't ask those same questions in real life that she did
No,
in the movie.
Yeah. I that is 100% made up for the movie. I liked that part of the movie. but
Okay,
it was-
we're getting ahead of ourselves.
okay.
We're going to talk about a movie called Woman of the Hour, which is now streaming on Netflix. We're also going to run down our top 10 favorite game show movies, which is related to the movie Woman of the Hour, if you didn't know. I'm sure you'll hear all about that in the review. Before we jump into all that, we need to remind you there's a video version of this podcast on YouTube. Go check it out there. Search Cinereelists and subscribe and watch while you listen. You could also support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Cinereelists. This very episode, before we recorded it, we recorded a pre-show episode. Normally we record after shows. This week we recorded a pre-show. In that pre-show, we talked about movies that are coming out over the next couple of months and kind of hot taking them and deciding whether we actually wanted to see it or pass on it. So if you kind of want a preview of from today through the end of the year, go check that out on Patreon. Also, you could rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, 5 stars only. We'd appreciate that. Or send us a listener email to heyguys@cinereelist.com, REEL with an S on the end. Links to all of those action points are in the description of this episode. Check it out. You guys ready to talk Woman of the Hour?
Let's do it.
All right.
Go.
We're going to do it right after this clip.
Hey. Can you tell me your number?
I just gave it to you.
Yeah, no, I know. I just want to make sure I have the right one. You know, sometimes the 4s, they kind of look like 9s.
Right. Yeah, just let me see it and
Can't repeat it from memory? So I guess this means we're not really meeting up in Carmel anymore?
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere with you.
All right. Fair enough. Maybe I'll see you around.
Yeah, maybe.
That was Woman of the Hour, a 2023 American crime thriller directed by Anna Kendrick in her directorial debut. The movie stars Anna Kendrick, Daniel Zavada, Nicolette Robinson, and Tony Hale, amongst others. The official IMDb plot synopsis for Woman of the Hour is: Cheryl Bradshaw, a single woman looking for a suitor on a hit 1970s TV show, chooses charming bachelor Rodney Alcala, unaware that, behind the man's gentle facade, he hides a deadly secret. Okay. I wonder why like all the descriptions never say it was the dating game.
Right. Or that, I mean, we can we say what his secret is?
I mean,
Because this is based on a true story.
Sure. I don't know, Zach. How do you feel? It's not a secret. Like the
It's not a
beginning of the
secret.
movie,
Right.
They show you right away that like.
Yeah, well, it's definitely not a spoiler.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
okay,
So
that's what we're asking.
okay, he's.
I don't
a
know why
serial
we always
killer.
ask you, Zach, but we do. We need you to tell us what's a spoiler.
I
and
feel
what-
like-
because I'm the only one that seems to understand what a spoiler is.
No. I know the spoilers. I feel like Zach has the spoiler moral compass of the three of us,
Mhm.
where it like he can decide whether that matters to the enjoyment of the movie or not.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah,
yes.
Right.
Yeah, he's a serial killer, and then he's a contestant on the dating show, dating game,
Mhm.
whatever.
Right.
Right.
And Anna Kendrick's character goes on the dating show and picks him out of the three.
Right.
Yes, he's one of the contestants. Yep.
And then she does or does not get murdered. That would be a spoiler.
That's the spoiler.
That's
Does
the
she-
suspense, probably.
Does she get
Yeah.
murdered? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, she's like a struggling actress that can't like book a gig, and then her agent gets her onto the dating game
Mhm.
to get her seen, basically. So she's not like really there seriously.
Mhm.
She's just there as part of a job kind of a thing. She's not like looking for love. But yeah.
And you also get the impression that she doesn't want to play, not the game as in the dating game, but like kind of play the Hollywood game, because she's asked to do roles and do things she's not comfortable with. So you get the impression that she's maybe a bit progressive feminist for the era.
Mhm.
So there's a bit of an irony of her going on the dating game where she's supposed to ask dumb questions and flirt with the boys.
Yeah. At one
Right.
point she even like says, "Oh, we love to hear it," or something like that. And I was like, well, that was written 2 years ago, not
Yeah.
50 years ago.
Sure. The story of Rodney Alcala, though, real guy, real
Yeah.
serial killer who really killed and raped women and did it for over a decade without being caught, and then was brazen enough to sign up for a television show.
I think what's worse is he was caught multiple times, but always got out of it somehow. Like it's
Right.
almost a failure of the system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also only died in 2021, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, in prison. Yeah.
Yeah. He made it to 77, which is probably far too long considering what he did while he was on the planet.
Yep.
So yeah, the movie itself kind of jumps around in time, telling the story of 5 different women, I think, who encountered Rodney. And you kind of like Pulp Fiction style, you're jumping around in the story, and it's not a completely linear telling of the story, and you're kind of constantly confronted with how he worked his way into these women's lives in one way or another, some in like really shallow ways, and then took advantage of them, basically.
Assaulted them. Yeah.
Assaulted them and killed them.
Murdered them. Yep.
Right. And so it's a dark subject matter. I'm not sure. I'll go first.
Yeah, please.
I liked the movie. I thought it told a pretty complete story, and I liked the style of it. Kind of these individual intercut stories left a little more suspense, I think, than just kind of telling a linear story of like, then he went to this person, and then he killed them, and then he went to this person, and then he killed. You know what I mean? It was like you didn't really know exactly who was going to be, or what event was going to be the event that gets him in trouble finally, type of thing. And so I thought the structure of the movie was good. I thought Anna Kendrick played a female in the 70s well, like the attitudes she was displaying. I mean, wasn't I was a kid in the 70s. I was 3 by the 1980s. So I don't know what the dating scene looked like back then. But I imagine that it was a man's world for the most part. And so I thought the politics that they had in the movie were interesting. And the idea of her as like a young actress not being able to book work and people wanting her to be in a bikini and stuff like that. Like there was a lot of politics that didn't have to do necessarily with the serial killerness of the movie that I found interesting. But I didn't find any of it like all that exceptional either. First time filmmaker, doesn't have to be exceptional. And there wasn't anything necessarily wrong with the movie, or anything that I have like huge criticisms for, but also I just don't think this is going to stick with me over time. I'm going to forget about this movie and it's going to like have some respect in the back of my brain, but like the details of it, none of it was exceptional enough for me to like imagine that I will take this away with me as a movie that I remember in detail. So I think maybe the reviews for it, which are pretty well overwhelmingly positive, hyped me up for a movie that it never really was. Because I was kind of hoping it would be something that like would crack my top 20 of the year type of thing. I'm not sure I got that movie, which is probably unfair to the movie. But that's where it lies. What was y'all's experience with it?
Well, all the individual parts of the movie I enjoyed. I thought were well done. You know, every like kind of vignette with a different victim that was well presented and acted and all of that. I enjoyed the movie and I enjoyed all the individual elements. Maybe the main thing that I felt was a little strange was the structure of the film and how it tried to build tension. And, you know, we kind of had the A story with Anna Kendrick and all these other vignettes were like B stories. And so the A story with Anna Kendrick was kind of like, you know, we'd come back to it, you know, periodically throughout the film. And it seemed like, not like a super climactic or like consequential event. You know, the fact that he was on this dating show isn't like this big like dramatic event that like we're not sure what's going to happen kind of thing. It didn't seem like really the centerpiece of the film when all the other things that were happening were much more serious, you know, and like important. And then, and you know, probably one of the best scenes of the movie is the after the game show with Anna Kendrick. But then because of the structure of the movie, that scene ends, and then there's more story going on, and you're not even sure where that takes place time wise until the end of the movie, and so it's all just a little bit odd because Anna Kendrick, who's the star of the film, she drops out almost completely and there's still like 20 minutes left of the movie. And so it's just a little odd structure wise, but all the individual elements I enjoyed.
Are you talking about the parking lot scene as the best scene in the movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you thought that was the best scene in the movie? I thought the scene following that was the best scene in the movie.
The end of the movie.
The I'm sorry scene, we could put it.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In the parking lot scene, I think that's when I felt the most suspense.
Right.
Because, this movie is structured where you have the main Anna Kendrick story as she kind of intersects with this serial killer. And then you get splashed in all these other moments of him killing his victims. And it seemed, if I'm correct, it seems like the vignettes we get both take place before and after the Anna Kendrick story. So
it kind of seemed like before up to that point.
I think one of them, well, the the runaway girl one,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
that one took place after, and then we do see like earlier, like, oh, that takes place in 78, this takes place in 77. So
But the girl in
like
the loft, like, was that before or after?
I think the girl in the loft was before. I think
Okay.
most of them were before. Maybe the only one that was after was the runaway girl.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So I mean, there's definitely that suspense of like, oh, does Anna Kendrick survive this or not? Because we do know he goes on to kill after the events in this movie. But I found the structure to be jarring because it seemed like the first 3 scenes were different years. It was like we had an early kill, and then we had the Anna Kendrick story, and then we had another kill. And I was just like, oh, okay, are we like, how often are we jumping around here? And how many timelines do I need to follow?
Right.
And then it would jump back, and I was like, are we going to Chiron every single time? After a while, we didn't. I kind of got into the groove of it. But I did find it a little odd to have these time jumps. I get what the movie is doing with them, but it wasn't, I don't know, a pleasing thing in a sense.
Mhm.
And also they're just tonally different. Like I would say each of the kills is, I hate to be crass about it, but
Mhm.
like each of the murder vignettes, I guess you could put it, like they're pretty serious. They're violent. What is it? Give me a better word to use, Zach, here. Like again, I'm trying to treat this with respect, but also describe what's happening in them.
By
so.
calling them the kills.
I
and
know.
then the murder vignettes.
Okay. Each of the scenes where
Sequences.
women are being murdered, how about that way?
Sure.
They're all pretty harrowing, right?
Yeah.
And then you get back to Anna Kendrick. I'm going to the dating show, and like her own, female politics of the 70s happening within that story, which is a little bit different story than what we're getting from all the other scenes.
Mhm.
So I think tonally I found it a little jarring because we go from very serious and not fun to watch to a little lighter is the best way to put it, I guess.
Mhm.
I did really like the scene where she kind of goes off script during the dating show and starts asking her own questions. And actually, like you mentioned, Zach, that did not happen in real life, but for this movie, it was fun, and it was kind of nice to have a little different feel there.
The actual episode of the dating game is on YouTube.
Oh, really? Okay.
You can watch it.
Yeah.
I imagine it's just like any other episode.
It's probably pretty
For the
innocuous.
most part.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me, I agree. Zach, the best scene was the parking lot scene. I also had my favorite shot of the movie, and like it was kind of the shot that maybe sort of say, oh, this is a little different, because I think most of the movie is pretty standard looking. Like it wasn't shot poorly or anything, but it didn't seem like it jumped off the screen at me. But there's one scene where in their parking lot, it's like a wide shot, and Anna Kendrick's on one side, and the guy who plays the serial killer's on the other side, and like she's under a street light, and he's being backlit, and it's very obvious, like light versus dark. But I thought it looked really cool, just that composition.
Nice.
But I guess I had a question, because Megan and I finished this movie together, and we kind of looked at each other and we asked, what was the point of this movie?
Mhm.
I have an answer for that.
Yeah, I'd like to hear
Let's hear
that.
it.
I wanna hear it.
We had our own discussion. I want to hear what you guys have to say.
James,
So.
you can go first if you want.
Sure. I think it's a movie retelling the history of a serial killer, right? So
Okay, yeah.
that was what they had, and they tried to give it the context of like I don't know, female empowerment to an extent. You know what I mean? The idea of like women in the 70s kind of taking their own power type of
Right.
thing. I'm not sure there's a lot of that in the movie itself, but like that definitely the Anna Kendrick character is like you're seeing things that over certainly the last 10 years we've seen reflected in big ways, in big shifts. Women who have decided they're not going to take that crap. They're not going to be told they have to be in a bikini just to audition. You know what I mean? Like this ridiculous has nothing to do with how good of an actress you are type of stuff. And so it was showing that was kind of the norm, the expectation in the 70s, probably through the 80s and most of the 90s and the aughts too. And so I think that was where they found meaning in telling the story of this serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
Was that enough of a reason to like make the name Rodney Alcala, attached to a movie that a bunch of people are going to watch? You know what I mean? Like, that's the problem with serial killers and mass murderers in general. Probably any murder is like, you don't want to give them the credit. You know what I mean? It's especially serial killers or mass murderers. That's what some of them are after, is they want to not be forgotten.
Right.
And so by making a movie about a guy who's already dead, doesn't really matter if people know his name, but by making a movie out of him, I would have never known the story or the name Rodney Alcala if this movie didn't exist as it stands today. Maybe somebody would have made a documentary down the line, but as it stands today, this is the only time I've ever come in contact with those two things. Didn't even know there was a guy on the dating show who was a serial killer. Had never heard that before. So on some level, you got to kind of justify, or maybe you might feel a need to justify a bigger reason for it. And I think that was maybe the reason, was to kind of like reflect on where women were in society at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it takes place in Hollywood means the victim, or maybe not victim, who lives in Hollywood got the bulk of the story. Because that's the most interesting to outsiders, is the fact that he was on the dating show, even though probably wasn't hugely monumental to the bigger story of what Rodney did. So those just my thoughts on it. How did you feel, Zach?
My read on it was it was a movie about listening and believing women.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Sure.
Constantly throughout the film, women had a sense that something was happening, something was wrong. They just needed someone to act on what they're trying to tell them, and men were ignoring them. And so had these various men believed these women, listened to these women, acted on what these women told him, he would have been stopped long ago, kind of a thing. And so the perpetuation of it was by ignoring women, So that happened with that boyfriend who didn't listen to the girl in the audience, the woman in the audience, the security guard didn't listen to the woman in the audience, like over and over.
Mm-hmm.
The police didn't listen to people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that was a major thing being presented in the movie, is just the importance of trusting women and even women trusting their own intuition, right? In those kind of situations. And then just the inherent risk that women feel around men all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So just being in an empty parking lot with a guy, even one that like you have a positive vibes of from, an hour earlier, instantly feels risky, and then the times where women let their guard down around a man, that's when they would get killed, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So about just that idea of just the inherent risk that women can feel around men.
Yeah, and one of the best line sequences in the movie is when they're doing her makeup and they're talking about the questions that the show had pre-written for her.
Right.
And then the makeup lady's like, none of these questions matter. They're all asking the same thing. And the same thing was like, which one of you is going to hurt me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, that's probably the best line in the whole script, in my opinion. Because it pretty much defined the whole thing.
Yeah. Which one of you is going to hurt me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We kind of took away a read of this as men are babies.
Mm-hmm.
As in, like, women so often need to act with men's feelings in minds, and will this hurt them, and will this make them feel better? And women are making decisions, especially in this era, to make men feel better. And that was sort of a big theme of this, and especially in the final scene with the runaway.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of uses that sense of like, oh, men are babies, and how can I cater to their feelings to
and how
keep
the movie
myself
started
safe.
with what's his name? What's that comedian's name?
Oh,
Pete Holmes.
Tony Hale? Wait,
No.
Pete Holmes.
Pete
the,
Holmes.
The neighbor.
Oh,
the neighbor.
oh yeah, the neighbor. Yes, right.
Yeah. Yeah. She spends the night with him because she didn't want to hurt his feelings, basically.
In the bar. Yeah, they have the bar scene.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, that was kind of our big takeaway from it.
And then he kind of ghosts her, right? After that. That's the vibe I got at the end of the movie when she's moving out. That
I don't know if he goes her or if they have this encounter and then that's kind of like the end of their friendship. Like
my vibe was she made it clear she felt like he took advantage of her and she didn't appreciate it, and so she didn't want to be his friend anymore.
Okay.
That was the vibe I got, but
yeah. It definitely that night, whatever friendship they had was over after that night.
I cannot take Pete Holmes seriously in a movie.
Me neither.
Is
It bugged
it his
me.
face?
It bothered me.
Like
I've just heard him so much on podcasts and stuff like that that he just doesn't seem like a character. He's just Pete Holmes yucking it up in a movie.
Yeah, his voice is like burned into the back of my brain, so
yeah,
it's hard for me too. Even though I haven't listened to You Made It Weird in like 6 years.
Right.
But there was a time when I listened like almost every week. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have bad things to say about it. It didn't feel like anything amazing either.
I wasn't blown away.
Right. It's like
and
very competent filmmaking.
Exactly.
Which feels like an insult, but it's not. Like competent filmmaking, everything was done the right way. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That I can tell as somebody who doesn't make movies. And so there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not yeah. I don't think there was anything in the story on the page that like absolutely had it, that made it something that had to be told from a thriller perspective.
Right, yes.
Making the statement that, like, as Zach described and some of the feelings that I had about it, some of the things Kyle expressed, is worth putting, to film. But yeah, I just have too much rattling around in my brain. I know this will quickly disappear at this point.
Because like a baby, our memories are.
I'm a guy.
Yeah.
It's got to be, got to throw an explosion or two in there, or else I won't remember it.
Do you think there's also something in the comment of like the guy was charming, right? In a lot of those interactions.
Yeah.
So just interesting, right? Like he really passes the vibe test for the most part until he starts killing you.
Sure.
Well, is that so? I don't know the difference between like a sociopath versus a psychopath, but aren't sociopaths able to easily mimic like human behavior, if that makes sense? Like so if that's part of the charm, is like, oh, like deep down he's cold, but he has this ability to come across as charming.
He didn't strike me, at least the characterization in this movie, as someone that had no emotion.
Okay.
Because he was often weeping after he killed these people.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So he just struck me as not like a emotionless, sociopath, but more just like a killer who felt conflicted about it afterwards.
Is there a difference between psychopath and sociopath? I mean, they're two different words. I assume they have different meanings.
I don't know. My guess, based on ignorance, would be one is a more clinical term and one is a more general kind of layman term. And one is probably more used and the other one is just in the ether. So I don't know. I've always heard sociopath and psychopath are the two terms I've heard bandied around.
Yeah. That's what I was saying, right?
What were the two words?
You were saying, sociopath and psychopath.
And psychopath, yeah. Which one's in the DSM? That's what I want to know. I
don't know what a DSM is.
It's where they list all the personality and mental disorders.
Okay. Psychopaths often display superficial charm, calculated behaviors.
Hold on. What's your source, just so we know before?
ChatGPT.
No, I need the DSM or I need American Journal or something.
No,
like that. I don't need ChatGPT.
They scraped it.
Yeah, from what?
A high degree of control over their emotions. They are less likely to form genuine emotional attachments and may
Wait, which one?
mimic empathy to manipulate others.
Look, is
That's
that
a
guy DSM
psychopath.
right there?
That's a psychopath. Sociopaths tend to have more impulsive and erratic behaviors, displaying frequent emotional outbursts or aggression. They struggle to form relationships, but might develop attachments to specific people or groups. So
Okay,
the
so
second half of that
psychopaths-
was very similar, but the first
Yeah.
half, psychopaths often display superficial charm. Sociopaths tend to have more impulsive and erratic behaviors.
Interesting. Okay. Well, Zach's got his DSM. Is that volume 4?
Yeah.
Have they released a volume 5 yet?
Yeah, they have.
Oh, so this is okay. Zach's got an out-of-date DSM right in front
But
of him.
here they got-
these haven't changed.
In summary, psychopaths, calculated, less emotional, socially manipulative, and often more successful at hiding their disorder. Sociopaths, impulsive, more emotional, less controlled, and often struggle with stable relationships or lifestyles.
He sounds like a sociopath.
Especially from his emotional outbursts. Yes.
I think he was a mix because I would say he was calculated.
was
and
he
he was-
psychosocial?
He was socially manipulative, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And he was successful at hiding his disorder. That's
Yeah, that's a
all
good point.
psychopath stuff, but sociopath, impulsive, more emotional, less controlled. I think when he was actually doing the killing, that's when he, moved into those areas.
Yeah.
And like there's
seemed-
that one scene in the parking lot where clearly his sociopath side took over.
The anger. Yes. The
right,
impulse.
the anger
Yes.
part.
Yep.
Both types, okay, they summarize this at the very end. Both types, however, exhibit antisocial behaviors and a lack of empathy with varying degrees and expressions of those traits.
I mean, I would say being a serial killer would be antisocial behavior.
Probably.
I feel comfortable saying that.
I think if you're a serial killer, you probably have elements of both of these conditions.
Right.
I imagine.
It seems like Zach's flipping through the book page by page.
I think Zach's
So
trying to
I don't know if it
read
has an
all
index
of
in it or not. So
Yeah.
hold on. Let's just wait while Zach reads the entire DSM volume 4, and then we'll know.
So Kyle, you don't trust ChatGPT for anything, evidently.
I don't know. Like if the source is I scrape the internet, that just seems like not a great source. That's just my source is everything.
It scraped the internet and every book ever
Yeah.
scanned.
I mean, I don't mind. Why can't you just go to a medical journal
It scanned the medical journals.
and everything else out there?
I'm not pro like AI is perfect or anything, but what you're saying is you trust one author over the collective of human history.
But I don't know how AI is aggregating the collection into one answer. So, like, at least if
Fair.
I read an encyclopedia, I know, right, here's a group of authors and they have come to this decision. Now, are encyclopedias always right? No. Is Wikipedia always right? No. Is ChatGPT always right? No. But maybe it's just I have more experience using something that's more concrete. So I'm more comfortable using a Wikipedia or a journal than just asking a chatbot a question and expecting a correct answer back.
I don't disagree with you, but I also think there's just as much fallacy built in. Fallacy?
Yeah.
Faultiness? I don't know what you would call it. Built into those other two examples as there is in AI.
So when
It's
Wikipedia
just easier to spot in AI.
Right. When Wikipedia first came out, the backlash was like, oh, we don't know who wrote this. And like, we don't know if this is true or not. And then studies were done and it was kind of shown that Wikipedia is as accurate as like Encyclopedia Britannica. Because that's what people were comparing it to. Like, oh, the encyclopedia, that's truth.
Mm-hmm.
And like, well, actually, they're both, equally fallible.
They're both malleable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So is ChatGPT maybe just as fallible as an encyclopedia or Wikipedia? Yeah, probably. But would I feel more comfortable using? Because, I want to
History.
Exactly.
Sure.
I'll just use stuff I'm more comfortable with.
Fair enough, I guess.
I'm a Luddite, not in the sense of like I'm anti-technology, but the true Luddites who just didn't want technology to become our masters.
As somebody who has saved so much money, not even saved, just made so much money letting ChatGPT program things for me lately. I love it. I trust it. I trust it with my life when it comes to programming.
We're not allowed to use it at work.
I mean, I'll always test it and check it to make
Yeah.
sure it did what I told it to do. But, and without knowledge of like, if you didn't know how to check it, I could see how it would be dangerous.
Yeah.
But as somebody who knows how to check it, it's pretty awesome sometimes.
James, I'm glad you're warming up to ChatGPT, James.
Oh, I love ChatGPT, especially for programming. I've had it try to generate like social media posts and stuff like that. It generates the most basic crap. I mean, it's so clearly not written by a human when it tries to do things like that. That it's kind of annoying because I wish it was more creative, but it's not creative at all, really.
I mean, maybe that's what we want from AI. Maybe you do want AI to do the boring stuff like coding, and then that way humans can be creative. Like, why does AI have to do all of it? Why can't you be creative and let AI do the boring stuff for you?
I want AI to be creative.
I don't want AI to be creative.
I do.
I want AI to do the boring stuff.
What if, like, what's your favorite movie ever? 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yes.
What if you fed 2001: A Space Odyssey into an AI algorithm, and then you fed all the movies Kubrick listed that he was inspired by, as well as all of Kubrick's other movies, into an AI, and then you had it write and generate an entire film that, if you didn't know it wasn't directed by Kubrick, you would think it was.
Okay.
Would you have a problem with that? The fact that it was completely generated based on the data set of the person who created your favorite movie ever. Wouldn't that be awesome to have one more movie from Kubrick's brain?
But it's not from his brain.
As interpreted by AI.
Yeah.
Let me say I still believe that will happen in our lifetimes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I find that endlessly fascinating, and I hope that someday I will see an AI movie where that exact scenario, maybe not Kubrick, but that exact scenario happened, and it's a movie I love. And it will blow my mind that a computer generated it, but I hope that happens in my lifetime. I think that would be awesome. It does give up some of our humanity, though, to machines.
Yeah,
it absolutely does give up some of our humanity to machines.
It doesn't diminish our humanity at all.
It makes us less useful.
Right. If we don't create because machines can create for us, then it's kind of like, what's the point? Like if we stop doing things because machines can just do it for us, then at what point do we have?
Then don't stop doing things.
Yeah, but the whole idea is like, oh, machines will do it for you. Machines will do it for you. And eventually there is no need for humans. We just have machines.
Right. But like
Robot revolution comes.
Kubrick had to exist for the movie that AI generated to exist. So like at some point, yeah, I mean, that'll be the interesting point, is when like AI doesn't need a data set. Like it's creative on its own. That's where I think we still have a long way to go. It needs to learn and then iterate off of what it learned.
Right.
We give it what it's learning. And so if we all stop creating things, then the data set it has stops at a certain amount of time. And so that's why I think we will still need to be creative. But I could see a future where we don't have to feed it anything and it's creative on its own.
Yeah. I think that's my concern that you just put right there, is like humans still innovate. Like obviously art begets art.
Sure.
But humans innovate upon art. AI right now mimics art. And if we stop, if we don't give it new art because it makes all the art for us and it doesn't give new art, then we just have art, and art becomes the same thing. And there is no new art. It's just a cycle of art.
Sure.
And it becomes meaningless because, yeah. All right. We
This
don't
has
want
nothing to do with
here.
anything. But,
Exactly.
It's hilarious that Kyle was talking about how men are babies, and then the episode on Women of the Hour has just evolved into us talking about AI.
What do you guys think of the Roman Empire? Let's talk about that.
That's the
for a
next
little
thing.
while.
That's more for Megalopolis. We should go back to that episode and talk about Roman Empire.
But the thing is, I could talk about AI and the Roman Empire for hours. That's so funny. Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's
It's
always
been a
good when you
while
got-
since we have had a lady on the podcast too. I think Megan was the last one, right? We need more ladies.
Oh yeah, when you say a lady, that really
non-man,
no, it's just a woman.
sure.
Okay, we
Um,
need more ladies on the podcast.
Sure. Maybe for the substance, we need to find a lady that will watch the substance.
I mean, Megan's not going to watch The Substance, so she's not the lady you have in mind.
Sure. I can't think of a single person in my life who I would volunteer to watch that movie, having not even seen it. Okay. What were we talking about? Woman at the Hour.
Woman of the Hour.
Anything left? We don't need to talk spoilers on Woman of the Hour, right?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. I didn't
You know,
necessarily
Letterboxd it?
find it that suspenseful. And maybe that's my biggest issue. Is that like I wasn't like, ooh, is he gonna get caught now? Like
It didn't feel like it was building to something.
probably because of all the jumping around.
Yes, I think that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, how else could you tell this story? They could have just told it linearly, maybe.
yeah. It just seemed like one of the big tension moments was like, which bachelor will she pick?
Right.
And I was like, that is so unimportant or interesting.
Sure. Yeah. Especially since like fairly early in that sequence, they make it clear who she's gonna pick.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's letterbox this. Out of 5 stars, what are you guys gonna give Woman of the Hour?
3 stars.
3.5.
I also gave it a 3.5. Pretty solid effort for a first film.
Yeah.
But I think all the hype is maybe because it's a first film. Not
And just
necessarily-
goodwill for Anna Kendrick.
for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I think people want to see her succeed, which I think she did. So-
And I think the movie did have something to say, and it was, like I said, very competent filmmaking for a first film. Definitely. All right. A 3 and 2 3.5s for Woman of the Hour. Next, we are going to discuss our top 10 favorite game show movies. Woman of the Hour clearly has a game show integrated into the plot of the film. And so do most of our movies from on our top 10 favorite game show movies. I'll go first on this one too. My number 10, Perfect Bid, The Contestant Who Knew Too Much, which is a documentary about the real life game show Press Your Luck, which is right? No, Perfect Bid is the movie about A Price is Right, not Press Your Luck.
Oh, okay.
Man, I should have put that on the Press Your Luck documentary.
Yeah, I thought you said you did because you.
No, I was thinking of
spoiled it during the
I was
pre-show.
thinking of Perfect Bid.
Oh, see, that's the real spoiler. So that people are going to think you're talking about the Press Your Luck movie, but instead.
Right. You're right. That's a true spoiler. So a guy in the 80s, I think, or 70s, figured out that they were recycling some of the products that they have people guess the price of on The Price is Right. And so since he watched every day, he just kind of started tracking what the products were and how much they cost. And then when he was called up for the show, to be a contestant on the show, he was guessing the prices like dead on, and nobody could quite figure out how he was doing this. And it's because he memorized all the prices. And it was a scandal at the time, and he didn't necessarily, I don't think, do anything wrong, right? I don't remember the outcome. You'll have to watch the documentary to find out the outcome, but
if they're recycling prices and
Mhm.
he just figures that out, I don't see why he didn't break any rules.
that's why I said I don't remember the outcome of what
Yeah.
happened, if they were able to get him on a rules technicality or something like that. I'm pretty sure he never got arrested, or I don't think it was ever a criminal thing, more just like a, they had to change the way they were operating. That's for
Right.
sure. Once they figured out this was possible for somebody to memorize the prices of thousands of products. And some guy did it. They made a documentary on it. It's pretty interesting. I enjoyed it. My number 10.
Just to digress quickly, the press your luck guy, I mean, he just memorized the order because he realized it was always in the same order. Did he face anything criminal? Because he didn't do anything wrong. He just figured out what they were doing on the game show.
I don't remember. Zach, you watched that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Do you remember? I don't think it was
no.
anything criminal. I think they just had to change the game show after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I have an issue when people find a loophole in the game and they're not doing anything wrong and they just exploit that loophole. And then everyone's like, oh, what a scandal that this person did this. Like, well, yeah, maybe a scandal for the game show, but like,
well, I think
it's not like I think there'll be another example later on your list if I know about this that is actual cheating. Like, these guys aren't cheating; they're just figuring out, the pattern.
It's cheating, Kyle. Come on.
Oh, that's definitely not cheating.
It's cheating.
It's not cheating.
What is
not,
cheating? They're breaking the rules. That's not cheating.
It's not in the spirit of the game show.
Well, okay, that's different though.
I agree. It's not the same kind of cheating, but it's definitely cheating to get the answers in advance. Memorize all of them. Or memorize the patterns and then guarantee that you're circumventing the actual game.
No, it's cheating to be given the answers, but to just know the answers because you pay attention, that's not cheating.
Right.
Like, is it cheating to just study trivia and be really good at Jeopardy? Like, oh, you just read too much, so you're cheating?
It's cheating in my mind.
It's not.
No, I didn't get to finish my statement. In the Jeopardy example, if you noticed that Jeopardy was repeating the questions, if every 8 years they started over on the questions, you noticed that, and you started writing down all the questions, and now you didn't need to know everything about everything like most Jeopardy contestants do. You only needed to know those 8 years of questions, and you only studied those 8 years of questions. In my opinion, that's cheating.
No, it's studying.
I disagree. It's just it's a different form of studying, and it's an exploit. I'll give you that, but it's not a rule. It's not breaking a rule, and they're not doing something. For me, cheating is when you do something that another contestant can't do, either because of a rule or because you're being fed something.
Yeah, you have an unfair advantage over other players because you're breaking a rule.
Exactly. Any person can figure out the pattern. Everyone has the same data set.
Yeah. Even breaking a rule is not necessarily cheating. It has to advantage you and not advantage other people.
It's kind of like, for me, when I know, like, I don't go to casinos. I don't count cards. I know casinos ban counting of cards. That's not cheating. That's just paying attention. Right?
Yeah.
Now, some people are better at it, but everyone sees the same cards. Everyone has the same information. So when I hear about a casino like kicking someone out because they're counting cards, I'm like, well, no, you're just not happy that they're winning.
Yeah, like
they're good at winning.
James, let's say you're playing with poker, okay? And you pay attention to the other players and you figure out all of their tells, okay? So you know when they're bluffing because they always do these tells. Once you know that information, are you cheating now when you play them at poker? Because you have noticed.
I wouldn't say you're cheating, but you also there's still no guarantee that you know their tells. Whereas, like, the answer to a question is a binary, a yes or no. Somebody's tells are like an assumption.
Well, the price of a product could theoretically change between
what and he didn't get all of them perfectly. He knew the range that the show valued it at. So there was still flexibility. He didn't necessarily get everyone perfect. I still say you are circumventing the spirit of the game, which to me is cheating. It's not the same kind of cheating as we talked about it in the pre-show, but the coughing in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Right,
That's
that's
clearly
cheating.
somebody in the moment outside of your own, you know what I mean, brain giving you an answer. That is the worst cheating. This is soft cheating. I don't know what you'd call it. You're definitely getting an advantage that other people don't have, maybe through your own ingenuity or your ability to memorize things or spot patterns or whatever. It's still an advantage that you're bringing in that other people aren't.
Sure, but just being more intelligent than someone would qualify for that as well. So it's not cheating to just be smarter than someone.
I agree. But there's a difference between just being generally smart and noticing a pattern and memorizing just that pattern. Those are two different things in my mind when it comes to whether it's cheating or not. If you want to study every fact ever and be the Jeopardy grand champion, that's not cheating because you didn't know the answers. You know what I mean? You didn't know which questions were to be asked. In my 8-year example, you knew what questions could be asked. That's an advantage that other people didn't have. Now, you may have realized the pattern on your own and nobody gave you that information, and then you did it's hard work. I'm not saying it's easy cheating. It's no coughing on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but it's still cheating in my book.
All right, I'm gonna go back to Jeopardy one more time because let's beat this dead horse.
I mean, I think this is going to come up probably on a couple of these movies, so we might as well do it now.
Jeopardy tends to stick to certain topics. Like they cover all topics, but if you want to be successful on Jeopardy, it's better to know literature and antiquity and other things than it is to learn every single rap lyric ever written. So most people who are on Jeopardy who are really good, they study, but they study a individual sect of subjects because they know Jeopardy asks usually questions about this. Mm-hmm. Is that cheating? Because they figured out Jeopardy will most likely ask me a question about these subject areas. So I'm not going to study everything. I'm just going to study the subject areas that Jeopardy's going to ask me.
No, I don't think that's cheating because you don't know the exact answers and questions.
Okay.
Whereas in my 8-year example, you do. You'll know the 5 questions related to that rap thing. You know what I mean?
I got you. Okay. Yeah.
And you know that the 9th year, those questions are going to reset. You're going to get the same 5 as they did 8 years before. That's different than like studying, trying to guess what they're going to ask is different than knowing what they're going to ask.
So can you define your definition of cheating? I just want like a definition of what is cheating, not examples, but like a definition. Because mine would be like, I think an unfair advantage that other people don't have that breaks a rule of the game.
Right. Or that you got through breaking a rule. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Breaks the rule of the game or the intention of the game. Breaks the game. Makes it unfair.
Anything that makes it unfair or breaks the game is cheating.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay. See, that's where I disagree. Like, I will say an exploit can make the game not fun, and I think for viewers, an exploit isn't fun to watch someone who has figured it out. Mm-hmm. But I think the person's not cheating; they just figured out a way to exploit the game.
Like if you're playing a Street Fighter game and there's some move that just like because of the coding, no other character can beat, and you just use that move. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like that's cheating. It might be cheap, but it's not cheating to just use the move to win.
It may not be fun to play that person if they just constantly use the Chung-Li leg attack, but yeah.
Exactly. But like it breaks the game, breaks the spirit of the game too, but it's not breaking a rule or hacking the programming. You know what I mean?
Is this a thing that only you can do?
No, anyone could do it. It's just no one has.
Right, but like you're the only one that has the information to do it.
No, everyone has the information, just no one has synthesize the information in a way that's helpful to them.
You figured it out, but anyone could figure it out.
Yeah. That information of the pattern is available to anyone that watches the show.
Sure.
It's just no one put it together, but you did. The same as like you figured out a Street Fighter combo that like is unbeatable by any player.
Sure. I would say if the game is not intended to be played that way, again, I would consider it soft cheating. It's not a horrendous thing to do, but you're definitely not playing the game the way it was intended to be played at that point.
Okay. Well, so I think we're in the era of metagaming now, right? And metagaming is figuring out the game and how do you play the game within a game. Isn't that just what these guys were doing? They were just metagaming 40 years before that became a thing. Because like now, I'm gonna go back to Jeopardy. Now the strategy to play Jeopardy is like it used to be you picked the 100 then the 200 and you ran the category. But people have figured out, if you want to make money, you need to hunt for the daily doubles. And the daily doubles are usually in these locations. So now when you watch people on Jeopardy, it seems like they're randomly guessing. They'll be like, I want this category for 400. I want this category for 800. And they're not really running the categories anymore because they figured out the metagame. I think it makes Jeopardy less fun to watch and it's not as enjoyable, but it's not, they're not cheating. It's just an exploit to, enhance their winnings.
Sure.
I used to watch a lot of Jeopardy if anyone can't figure it out.
I wouldn't say not
so much anymore.
I wouldn't say that's cheating either, because in theory, those questions are harder the higher they go. So you're getting asked the harder questions.
But they're breaking the spirit of the game. Like the spirit of Jeopardy is you start at the 100 and you kind of run through the list. And oftentimes the questions are kind of written in a way that they relate to each other. There's a flow to them. And now people are just randomly guessing all over the board.
Sure. Yeah, but I would consider that type of strategy is not something you could have prepared for before coming on the show.
No, but you can, because you can study where do they usually put the daily doubles. They usually don't put them at the 100s. They're usually stuck somewhere a little bit lower. So there is a strategy. I shouldn't say random.
I understand the strategy
random to the viewer, but it's not random to the guessers.
Well, it's like playing Monopoly and knowing that you should buy the orange properties because they get landed on the most, and other players might not know that because they didn't read about Monopoly strategy, but that Illinois Avenue is going to be landed on more often, and so you make sure you get Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's cheating, but is it like the worst type of cheating? No. The worst would be, weighted dice to make sure that you land on that property. You know what I mean? Like,
that's definitely cheating. Like,
yeah, I think like where Kyle and I disagree with you is just we feel hard and fast that it has to break a rule to be cheating. And so anytime you call something that's not breaking a rule cheating, it just doesn't fit in our brain. Because if it's not breaking a rule, it's not cheating. But you're like, well, I could accept things that don't break rules as cheating. And so that just doesn't make sense to us.
And I will say in 30 years of friendship, Zach and I have gotten in many arguments about the spirit of a game.
Totally. Yes.
Very many of like one of us will do something. A person's like, you can't do that. Like, where in the rules to say that? I'm like, it's not the spirit of the game. And we have ended board games because, one of us is so mad that the other one did something, which isn't cheating.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it sure feels like somebody cheated, right?
No. It feels like someone violated the spirit of the game,
right,
while not cheating.
And maybe a little bit of anger that you didn't figure it out first for yourself.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
sure. I mean, yeah, maybe you guys take more offense to the word cheating than I do, but I just soft cheating is just something that's come up in this discussion. I've never even heard about it or thought of that.
You just made
that
it up
terminology.
On the spot.
I made it up on the spot because Zach was trying to corner me. So. And so I do feel like trying to subvert the game in advance before you're on it or before you're playing it or anything like that is not in the spirit of the game and is a form of cheating. And I believe that that's what the guy from The Perfect Bid, the contestant who knew too much, did.
So do you think
you're number
that
10.
his prizes should have been stripped from him then because he was cheating?
No.
He should not have won those prizes. Why do you think a cheater at a game show should get his prizes?
Because it's the game show's fault for not making it more random.
So he's not cheating then.
They were lazy.
They are at fault.
He exploited the rules. He cheated, but legally, and walked away with some money.
No, but you can't always protect against cheaters, right? Like no matter how many precautions or rules, there could always be someone who cheats at something, and there's something you could have done to stop them but didn't think of.
Sure.
Right? So like in any scenario, someone could have taken more precaution to keep a cheater from doing his thing. So why would a cheater ever deserve their winnings?
There's like a big difference though between a guy, like in the Price is Right example, like a guy who goes to the supermarket and studies prices, right? And like walks around and was like, oh, a cucumber costs this, and a carrot costs that, whatever. Like just absorbs prices from society.
I don't think you've ever seen The Price is Right.
That's not what the Price is Right did.
Yeah.
Right? The Price is Right
Right.
guy watched the TV show.
Yeah.
And
Can you
wrote
believe
down
it?
the prices of what the show thought those things were worth and
Yeah.
memorized those numbers, and then intentionally got on the show and used that knowledge.
How dare he use the information in front of him to his advantage?
That to me is a form of cheating. Is it breaking the rules? Not necessarily. So that's
but
why
you think he should get his winnings because he didn't break a rule.
Yeah. But he still had an advantage over everybody else and took advantage of that advantage.
Well, yeah, I mean, usually the person with an advantage wins a game show.
Sure.
Right? For whatever the advantage is. Either they press the Jeopardy button faster or they know more things.
There's a big difference, though, between knowing more things and knowing the things. For sure. You know those things.
No, he didn't.
You found out the answers in advance.
No, but
nobody gave them to you, but you
James,
found them
here's
out.
the thing.
He
didn't
find
know
out
what
the
products.
answers.
He didn't know what products were going to
Right.
be on the show. He just knew all the products. It's the same as not knowing what questions are going to ask on Jeopardy. He just knows all questions.
Yes, but they weren't all the questions. They were clearly the questions they were asking over and over and over. The questions being the price of an item in the case of The Perfect Bid. And so that's a much smaller pool than all the prices. Just like in the Jeopardy example, knowing all the questions asked over 8 years versus all the questions over the course of all of Jeopardy. Those are two very different sizes of knowledge base.
If a football teams watch tape of their opponents,
Yes.
right, and you
Cheaters.
watch the quarterback you're playing,
Mhm.
okay, and you say, oh wow, every time in this situation, this quarterback does this.
Mhm.
So when we get to this situation, we need to do this because we know the quarterback's going to do that. Is that cheating?
Is reading the lips of another coach cheating?
You didn't answer my question.
I will answer your question after you answer mine. Is reading the lips of another coach cheating?
I mean, they're talking. There's a reason why all the coaches
I would
hold
have
up.
to look at the rule book
Okay.
to know if that's against the rules.
Sure.
If it's not against the rules, go for it.
I would also say that coaches are aware of that, and when you see them talking, they hold their playbook over their mouths.
I think there's a world to answer your question, because I promised you I
Yes.
would, even though you kind of didn't answer mine. So if you could guarantee that those plays were played exactly how they were played on tape every single time, then yes, that's cheating.
No,
but the,
all you
but
can
the fact
guarantee,
is you can't guarantee that because
James,
it's
all you
humans
can
on a football
guarantee
team.
is that the 100 times it happened before, it all happened the same way. That's the only
Right.
thing you can guarantee.
You can guarantee the pattern.
But you can't guarantee the pattern when it comes
But this,
to
no, the
football.
game show could have changed the pattern the day before he went on the program, right? All he knows is they've always done it this way every time it happened.
Right.
Sure.
He had no guarantee that
Same with the football.
it was going to be that way that day.
Same
could have
with-
changed
same
the
with the press
programming.
your luck guy.
exactly.
Yeah, press your luck guy had no guarantee it was going to be that pattern. He'd just say, well, every other time has been this way. So
Yeah.
it's most likely going to be this way.
Same with the football guy.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess it's cheating.
All right. So studying is cheating. That's the,
I mean, it's
Studying
still-
game tape
It's
for
still,
football is cheating.
in
Soft
my
cheating.
opinion, the football example is much softer than the game show examples we've talked about, which was already pretty soft, but it's still cheating.
So according to you, and this is not because you're on one side of the argument, and so you have to say this in order to maintain consistency.
No, this is how I feel.
You feel that studying game tape before a football game is a form of soft cheating.
Sure.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I feel like I,
I mean, it's
understand your situation.
AKA preparing.
And so to continue to talk about it would be cheating because I think I understand the pattern now.
Is it
It's preparing.
is watching a movie before you review it cheating?
Watching a movie before I review
Like
it?
Yeah,
Like
I
a
mean,
s-
you
a soft
prepared.
form.
Yeah, like
No.
why do you have
I'm
to
not being
get an
tested
advantage
on
by
it.
watching the movie to review it? Why can't you just review it?
I'm not
Why do you
being,
need that?
I'm not
that
being
extra?
tested on it. There's no winner in a review. There's no winner and
Oh,
loser.
Zach
We're not
and I keep
we're not
score.
competing when we review something. At least I'm not. I don't know about you guys, but I'm
Every
not
week, Zach and I
competing.
talk over text. Who won the
won?
episode?
Yeah. And it's always James because
Because he cheats by watching the movies beforehand.
No, I mean, I realistically, I wouldn't say somebody's cheating by watching game tape. But if they could guarantee that game tape was exactly how it was going to be played in the game, or they knew that the quarterback was going to run things because somebody told them, they got
Now-
information that like nothing has changed. You know what I mean? Like these are things that would elevate how much I would say they're cheating.
But
I do
but
want to say
these
something.
guys. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Zach.
I want to say something in support of James's side because this
Sure.
is something I would consider cheating that is not against the rules, and it's because I'm going to invent a term called phantom rules.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's say you own Trivial Pursuit,
Mhm.
and there's going to be a big game with your friends on Saturday night, and so on Wednesday night you read every single Trivial Pursuit card, okay, in the
Yeah.
box.
Exactly.
And then on Saturday night comes and you do really well because you've already read through all the questions. Maybe you haven't even memorized them, but just reading through them once, you're just more familiar. I would consider that cheating, even though there's not a rule against it. But I guess the reason why I feel like that's cheating and it's different is because I feel like there's a phantom rule against it, which is so obvious that it doesn't have to be written down. Whereas like the questions have to be presented for the first time while you're playing. And the reason I believe that phantom rule exists in the same capacity as an actual rule is because when I'm playing a game and I get a question that like I've had before in a previous game, I tell the other players, oh, I've had this question before, give me a new one, right? Because it's implied that you get new questions. Do you know what I mean?
So how I understand like what you're saying, Zach, and I agree that that's cheating, clearly. How is that any different than the guy from The Perfect Bid?
I have an answer.
Like,
for
I think
that.
it was implied that you haven't gone into the history of the show and you haven't memorized the price of every single item and realized that
I disagree because the
it was their
audience
fault for allowing that to happen. But I think they just never imagined anybody in a million years would go through all that.
I don't think it's implied because I think the people that go on that show, like, very clearly are super fans of the show, right? They're all obsessed with The Price is Right in a very, like, ostentatious way. Kyle, what were you going to say?
Yeah. So, I mean, the difference is in your example, you read the questions in advance. Now, technically, anyone could have done that because it's a commercial board game. Anyone could have bought it and read the questions in advance. But you chose to read the questions in advance, so you knew the answers because you knew the questions. These other guys,
But you didn't know
studied
which questions. You just knew all of the questions.
Right. But these other guys studied patterns and said, this will probably be what happens.
Not the
It's
perfect
happened
bid
100
guy.
times before. It'll probably be what happened. But it's the difference is they didn't know. They said, this is probably going to happen, and I'm going to use that to my advantage. Versus Trivial Pursuit is, I know the questions because I've read them. And that, to me, that's the big difference. Is one is knowing for sure what it's going to be. Even if it's the other example is knowing what it's probably going to be, probably is not a guarantee.
Let me add on
reading
to
all the
that.
questions is a guarantee.
Let me add on to that. As the person who has access to the questions of Trivial Pursuit on the Wednesday night, right? You're the producer. Like, you have the questions that will be at the game night in your possession. You're the producer, and you give them to the player, which is also yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If the game show had given him what products they're going to talk about, then that would be cheating, right? If the producer gave the contestant. But here, the contestant is just doing all the work without any help from production. So I feel like it's not cheating. I feel like it's different.
Sure. I disagree, but it's cheating I respect. You know what I mean?
Oh, really? You respect it?
100%.
But you think
Anybody who can figure out how to get around the rules of the game without actually breaking a written rule of the game has done something, in my opinion. I mean, it's not easy. Both what the Press Your Luck guy did and what the Perfect Bid guy did took a lot of skill and a lot of time to accomplish.
So I would say cheating is always wrong. Would you say soft cheating can be right?
I don't know about right, but just not wrong.
Well, could it be like moral?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, you'll have to give me a specific example. Do I think the guy who did the Perfect Bid, let's leave it to Perfect Bid.
Yeah.
Was that moral, what he did?
Was it immoral?
Was it immoral? I don't think memorizing the numbers was immoral. I think
taking prizes.
Going on the show and taking prizes without anybody knowing that you figured out the game and figured out a way around having to actually guess the prices. He's no longer guessing the prices. He knows the prices. And he didn't do it through studying all prices. He did it through studying the prices he had a very strong reason to think they were going to ask.
Yeah.
I think that's deceptive and probably has a hint of immorality. Yes.
Okay.
I will agree. Deceptive, sure. Like it's an advantage that they're keeping to themselves.
Shady.
It's still not cheating. It's deceptive. I will agree, but it's not cheating.
Yeah, I think you guys. I don't take as much offense to the word cheating as I think you guys do. You're like hardlining the word cheating. I think there's shades.
It just seems like a bad thing to me.
I mean, like I used to play Mortal Kombat with my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Okay.
He would get upset if he didn't win every now and then. I let him win. It's kind of cheating. It's cheating it's cheating that helps somebody else. But
It's not cheating.
No, that's not
it's
cheating.
still not a fair game. If it was a fair game, I would have whipped his butt every single time because I was way better at Mortal Kombat than he was.
Also,
but
not
I
cheating.
occasionally cheated to his advantage.
That's not cheating.
To make
No,
sure
you didn't
that he
break any
won every now
rules.
and then.
You just held back to make sure that everyone had a good time.
You didn't break
You're
any
just being-
rules.
Yeah.
Still cheating in my mind.
No, I mean, cheating would be okay. A boxer throwing a fight, that's cheating. They're holding back, right?
What if they did it just because they wanted the other guy to win?
Well, like just out of the goodness of their heart, they threw the fight.
They had no real benefit other than making.
I don't think
somebody
that's
else feel
cheating
good.
in that case.
I don't think that's cheating. No.
What is it then? It's not a fair fight because one guy didn't put his full effort. You know what I mean? Like he intentionally lost. Why is it cheating when there's money involved, but not when there's not?
The money makes it the financial incentive makes it
the
wrong.
prize. Yeah.
There's no financial incentive in what we're talking about with these game shows.
No, but
Like
there's-
you're
there's-
taking the money from somebody else who's playing on a level playing field.
there are rules against cheating in boxing. Like there's a rule saying you cannot throw a fight.
If there's no money involved, you can throw a fight. That's what you're saying.
Sure, but then that's not cheating. Once you get the money involved, because the rules say to throw a fight to gain money is against the rules.
Yeah,
Tell me
there's
in
no
the rules
rule
of
like,
Price
oh,
of
you
Right
only
where
went
it says
90% of your power level, so you're disqualified from the. You know what I mean? There's no rule like that.
I don't know.
Like you only gave 85% of your gusto to that fight, so you're disqualified from the championship. That's not a thing.
Sure. I don't know. It's a gray area to me.
That's interesting. Okay. All right.
Is this the longest discussion we've ever had on the first movie on the list?
Yeah, I could say probably yes on the first.
Possibly.
movie.
Yeah, possibly.
This is going to be a long one. Strap in.
All right.
Who's next?
Well, I'll go next.
Okay.
My number 10 is The Running Man. It's a 1987 movie. There's a lot of movies that are kind of these deathmatch game shows. I don't care for the genre, I realize, but I decided to pick The Running Man of all of these because I think it's one of the more interesting ones, even though I'm not crazy about this movie. This is an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. He gets put on a game show called The Running Man. It's in this dystopia, which I think it takes place like last year or something like that. So if you look at the timeline, where he is forced to fight these champions, I think they're called like Sentinels or something like that, on this televised TV show to the death. And there's politics involved in it, and he's accused of crimes he didn't commit. And the movie's kind of cheesy. I don't think it's the greatest Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, but I do really like Richard Dawson, who plays the host of the TV show, who's best known for the Family Feud. I think he just takes all his charm and his sleaze that he showed on Family Feud and just amps it up into a real evil character on The Running Man.
Nice. My number 10 is Stay Tuned from 1992. Have you guys seen this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of hate this film.
It's an HBO a staple.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I really, really dislike this movie. That's why it's my number 10. I haven't seen a lot of game show movies, and so I just have 10. And so I'm starting strong with Stay Tuned. Really don't like. It's so mean-spirited. It's just let's be really awful to this guy and just make his day the worst possible. And I just don't enjoy that kind of movie. And it's just my own personal nightmare to be in this world. But definitely there's some game show elements to it. It's a guy that gets sucked into a TV basically, and I think the devil keeps switching in between different TV programs.
That's right.
That he's like a part of. And it's horrific.
It's a black comedy. I don't think it was supposed to be horrific, but it was not a nice world for sure.
When you're 9, it's a bit of a tough movie to watch.
Well, and it's supposed to be like hell's version of TV.
Right.
So none of the places he's going are pleasant.
It's not the light comedy you're expecting to get from Blockbuster when you're, that age.
Yeah.
I like that movie, but I did rewatch it like in the last 15 years or so and was like, this is not really even that funny. It's just weird. It's just a weird movie, I would say, more than funny.
There's another movie called Click where he has a magic TV remote that like controls reality or whatever.
Oh, yeah, Adam Sandler, yeah.
Maybe there's something about the bait and switch because I hate that movie too. It just maybe it seems like a movie where you're like get sucked into TV or like have a remote that can control things should be awesome, and then it's just awful. It just feels like such a betrayal.
Well, I think it's one of those careful what you wish for type of things.
Yeah, it's a real monkey's paw.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of monkey paws, my number 9 is Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, which was directed by George Clooney and stars Drew Barrymore and George Clooney, Julia Roberts, Sam Rockwell, Rutger Hauer, amongst others. It's based on a real life game show host. I'm forgetting his name. Chuck Barris. Also, this is written by Charlie Kaufman, of all people. So if you like his movies, this one has a little bit of the Charlie Kaufman weirdness in it. essentially Chuck Barris was a prominent game show host who also claimed in an autobiography later on in life to be a CIA agent. Like the entire time he was a game show host, supposedly he was also a CIA agent, which people find to this day hard to believe. And it's kind of not been proven that he was or that he wasn't, because how do you prove those kinds of things? And so the movie goes into him and his weird eccentricities, and it kind of takes the idea seriously that he was a CIA agent, because the movie's based on his autobiography, where he details some of his spy activities in his biography. So the movie presents it as he told it, and I thought it was a good, interesting drama that has some lighthearted moments, some kind of incredulous claims, mixed with some pretty strong 60s and 70s game show cheese mixed in. And I enjoyed it. My number 9.
Nice. My number 9 is the previously mentioned Stay Tuned. And yeah, like I said, I remember renting this as a kid, expecting a light, fun comedy about John Ritter getting sucked into a TV and having to like live in TV land. And it's dark, and like I said, Zach, it's run by the devil, and every version is like the Hell's version of a game show, or Hell's version of Wayne's World, or Hell's version of anything, and just wasn't a fun movie as a kid. So,
Yeah.
but
All right.
it has game shows on it, so it's on my list.
My number 9 is 2012's The Hunger Games, which is a movie I was fine with. I liked it, I guess. It was fine. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't finished the Hunger Games series. Should I? Like, I think haven't seen the last 2, so I don't know how it ends.
You're fine.
Okay.
No, I think you could finish it for sure.
Yeah, you could, but
I imagine she overthrows the districts or something. That would be my guess. Or maybe dies and someone else overthrows the districts.
The problem is they did this whole, we're going to make the last book a 2-parter to like stretch it out. And I watched part 1, and it's nothing happens in part 1 that I was not excited to watch part 2. I just never got around to it because like, well, okay, this part 1 is boring. So they probably could have made a good movie in 1 part, but instead they tried to make money out of 2 parts. And I think I lost a lot of people that way.
Meanwhile, all the good stuff's in part 2. So Kyle doesn't like the series because he didn't finish it, because he didn't watch the best one other than the first one.
Right, because they gave me a boring one as a precursor, and it's like,
I know, but it's been 10 years now, Kyle. You can watch it. You can finish the series. The last one's good. I'm telling you.
Then I need to rewatch the whole series though, because it's been 10 years.
You really don't. You could just watch the last one. It's fine.
That'd be such a random movie to watch.
Do it.
What else have you been watching, Kyle?
I thought it was your number 8.
Oh, is it me?
Yeah.
My bad. My number 8 is Starter for 10, which let me read this cast list to you. James McAvoy, Alice Eve, Rebecca Hall, and Benedict Cumberbatch in the year 2006. It's before they all were stars, I would say. In this comedy / drama about some university students who are on like a quiz team, and stuff happens, I would say. It's a fun movie. It's a little bit of like it's a movie about not necessarily cheating, but subverting the rules. Subverting the rules, I would say.
Studying.
Interpersonal collegiate relationships and subverting the rules. I had fun with it. And it's fun to see all these people really fresh-faced that were basically going to become the new stars of big budget things over the next, 10 years or so.
That's fun.
Starter for 10.
All right. Kyle?
My number 8 is a Woody Allen movie called Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex, But Were Afraid to Ask. This is I guess a vignette movie or a chronicle style movie where it's just a bunch of short films that are all kind of related to sex and sex politics. There is a kind of a parody of the game show What's My Line on this called What's My Perversion? And that's for the game show element. But by far the most memorable sequence is the final one where Woody Allen and a bunch of other guys are sperm who are discussing their destiny. The best way to put it in a family friendly way. It's funny, it's memorable. The rest of the movie was kind of blah.
Okay.
So you could probably go online, find a clip of just that, and you'll be fine. You don't see the rest of the movie.
Okay. My number 8 is Woman of the Hour.
Which we
I really
about.
couldn't think of more than 10 movies for this list.
My number 7 is Woman of the Hour.
My number 7 is Mallrats. It's a Kevin Smith movie. It's about a bunch of guys hanging out at a mall. It's your normal cast of Kevin Smith characters, as well as Jason Lee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Skateboarder turned actor. He's a main actor in this. Ben Affleck kind of plays a bad guy. And the reason all the characters are at the mall is because they're filming a dating show called Truth or Date, which I think is kind of like Singled Out sort of style show from the 90s. And one of the characters, either girlfriend or ex-girlfriend's on the show. So he's going to the mall to sort of confront her. And the rest of the movie unfolds from there. I remember liking Mallrats when it came, or not when it came out, when I saw it for the first time in the late 90s. Have not seen this movie in like 20 odd years, probably 25 years. And is it worth a rewatch, James?
What was the movie again? I wasn't actually listening.
Oh, Mallrats, Kevin Smith.
Oh, right. Is it worth a rewatch? How big
Yeah.
of a Kevin Smith fan are you?
I would say I was a big fan in the 90s and early 2000s. And then he's sort of fallen off. I just don't care so much anymore.
I mean,
Like
you'll probably
Clerks
get
2 is kind of where I stopped.
Sure. I mean, the bigger question is, has Kevin Smith ever made a good movie? I think even as a fan, I'm
Right.
not sure I can answer that question. He's made movies that I love because I watched him at a very specific time in my life and it related to me. But from like a filmmaking perspective, when you go back and watch him, you'll get like the nostalgic love back. You'll get waves of that. But
Okay.
it'll become more and more obvious that he's never really made a good movie. Like none of them will stand the test of time. They are elements of their time. You know what I mean? They are.
Yeah, they're
Right.
a snapshot of the era.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
I don't want to have another digression right now. Have we ever discussed Clerks the animated show? You and I?
No, but it's maybe the best thing he's ever done.
Okay, maybe a Patreon or some other time. Zach, have you seen Clerks the animated show?
No.
It's like 6 episodes.
And pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Also, he
Watch
barely
it.
had anything to do with it, which makes sense.
Yeah. If you have some time, watch it. Let's talk about it sometime because I think it's maybe my favorite Kevin Smith thing of anything.
It's like six 20-minute episodes, so it's not a huge.
Clerks the animated series.
Yeah.
Episode 2 is a clip show of episode 1.
Right.
So
it's a very weird meta show, kind of like
the show about the show.
No. It's like Rick and Morty before Rick and Morty, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. All right. Another time we can talk about that show.
Okay, my number 7. I don't know if it technically qualifies as a game show movie. You guys will have to let me know. It's Billy Madison from 1995.
Is it okay?
The reason I picked it is because he competes in the academic decathlon at the end of the film.
Okay.
Which I don't know if it was filmed or not, but it's certainly presented like game show format, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's people competing to answer questions.
I'll allow it. Right. It's not filmed. It's not a television show, but I think in this case, it's a game
very
show
Jeopardy-esque.
Yes.
I don't recall if it was filmed or not for posterity.
And we can agree he cheated by going to school before this decathlon, right?
Yeah, twice.
Yeah, he went to school twice, all the grades. Like how dare he?
Yeah. And they were all questions that he had learned during the course of his schooling.
I know. That's
He knew
just
all the answers in advance.
Yeah, he did. He did know all the answers in advance.
Soft cheating.
Yep.
Oh, what is the fact about the guy that hosted that game show?
What's the actor's name?
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's some interesting thing to know about the guy who
The guy who hosted the
hosted
game
that.
show in Billy Madison?
Yes.
I don't know.
Who is it? That would be helpful.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is it Rob
Oh, okay.
Schneider?
Like,
Is that who you're talking
No.
about?
The guy that you remember the guy who said like that might be the dumbest answer I've ever heard. We're all dumber for listening
Oh,
to you.
yes.
I've
yeah.
only seen Billy Madison once when it came out.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah. I don't remember any lines from it.
The guy who read that line, there's a very interesting fact about him. I don't know.
Is he
I
a
don't know what
serial
it is.
killer?
I'll figure it out later.
Okay.
Here's a
Yeah,
question for
I'll-
you guys.
Yeah.
Is James a fan of Adam Sandler?
No.
I don't think you are.
You don't think I am?
No.
I think maybe you're a fan of his like albums, his CDs when you were a kid.
Sure.
But I don't think you're a fan of his movies.
You liked Three Godfathers better than I did.
His early movies, I actually am a fan of.
Okay.
I mean, Billy Madison's not my favorite, but the golfing one that I'm drawing a blank on.
Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, Waterboy, Big Daddy,
Little Nicky.
Little Nicky lost me quite a bit.
Okay.
And then certainly his PTA film and his
Uncut Gems. the other
his
one.
Safdie stuff. Yeah, Uncut
Yeah,
Gems. I've really loved.
What about Funny People?
Funny People was good in
Yeah.
like a not funny way, for sure. So I'm a fan, but I mean, short of like Big Daddy, I don't think there was another comedy he made that did anything for me. At some point, I just stopped watching them. But I saw like 2 of the Grown Ups movies. I think there were 3. Maybe there were only 2. But anyway,
No clue.
my number 6 kind of fits in the same category as what Zach was just describing. I'm not sure this is technically a game show, but it's definitely a competition that was filmed. It's called Hands on a Hard Body, the documentary. Have either of you guys seen this?
No.
I'm aware of it. I haven't seen it.
Oh, you should see it. Both
Yeah,
of you
I
should
would-
see
I
it,
would
but
love it.
definitely Zach would love it.
I would love it. Yeah.
So, this radio station held a stunt competition where they bought a car. I forget what it was, like a Camaro or something nice. And they got a bunch of people to put their hand on the car. And basically, the last person to have their hand on the car wins the car. So something that they expected to like maybe go like 12 hours ended up going like 70 some hours. And people, you couldn't sit down, and you could eat, and I think people were peeing in buckets and stuff like that.
Yeah, no bathroom break.
I don't remember. Maybe there were
'Cause that's
bathroom breaks.
That's unhealthy if you go like that long without using the bathroom.
This was the 90s. This was like the
Yeah.
same era as like, you remember when people were dying for wheeze because they were drinking too much water on radio competition shows and stuff like that. Do you remember that at all?
No.
At
what?
one point, there was a radio show that held a competition for a wee, which the joke was you had to drink like a full gallon of water and then hold your bladder for like a certain amount of time. And like somebody died doing it.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, right. Because you get kidney failure that way if you don't go to the bathroom.
Right. So it was in that era where like I think radio stations were like trying these publicity stunts that really are not healthy for people, and yet they were doing it anyway. I don't remember if you took bathroom breaks or not. What I do know is that it was filmed, and it's awesome because it's just normal people, not necessarily endurance people who have trained for this, who are just determined to not take their hand off this car. And so it's a very normal people slice of life type of thing. Normal people doing an extraordinary thing for something as kind of that we all take advantage of. The idea of like having a new car. A lot of these people have never had a new car,
Mhm.
much less will ever be able to afford a Camaro. And so, yeah, Really, really well put together. So popular that they actually made a musical out of the documentary. I think it's maybe the only documentary I know of where that's the case. Can anybody else think of a documentary where they made a musical out of it?
I mean,
No.
The Thin Blue Line, the musical, kind of failed. So
For sure. Yep. The musical received 3 Tony Award nominations.
wow.
So it wasn't just like a little playhouse somewhere. It was like a well-respected musical for a bit of time.
Yeah, if it got Tony, it's probably on Broadway or something. So
I don't remember exactly, but if you just want something fun and easy to watch, Hands on a Hard Body is really well made.
all right. My number 6 is Woman of the Hour.
Nice.
Nice.
That's
All right.
a bingo.
My number 6 is Quiz Show from 1994. This is a movie about a game show that's potentially fixed, where there would be hard cheating by our collective definition, and it stars how do you say his name?
Rafe Fiennes.
Rafe. Why is it spelled like Ralph?
Because he is British.
And that's the British way of pronouncing Ralph.
Or maybe he's Irish. I don't know. It's because, or he might be Welsh. It could be the Welsh pronunciation.
Because I've seen King Ralph, where he was the king of England,
Mm-hmm.
and he definitely pronounced it Ralph.
Find out where Rafe Fiennes is from. Also, why do you get to determine how people pronounce their names?
I'm asking the questions. I'm not determining a thing. But Ralph Fiennes is from Suffolk, England.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure why it's pronounced Rafe, but it is.
Where's Rafe Fiennes from then?
Yeah.
Yeah, Quiz Show was good. It's kind of, I don't know, like a slow burn thriller a little bit. I liked it. It's John Turturro's in it. Yeah, it's good.
Yep. Good pick.
Oh, my turn.
James. Yes. Number
Yes,
5.
my number 5 is Battle Royale, which is a movie that a lot of people associate with Hunger Games, even though it came before Hunger Games. It's about some students who are forced by their government to take part in a game where they essentially murder each other and last man standing type of situation. And in Battle Royale, it's more about like being a juvenile delinquent. They're like, hey, let's get all the delinquents in this game, and then they'll eliminate most of them, and the one that survives we will give a pass to, basically. It's less a game show than Hunger Games depicts, the competition, and more a punishment, I would say. But it's a competition. It's a competition that the country knows about, and less television show. So maybe debatable that it's not necessarily a game show movie. But I always felt it's a good one. It's pretty violent. It's kids killing kids, and it's not like the Hollywood version of that. It's the Japanese version of that. And I think they just have maybe a different tolerance for mainstream violence at times. And I think Battle Royale is a good example of that. And so just know what you're getting into, but it is good. It inspired a lot of other movies to have kind of this formula to it, the battle, winner take all battle royale type thing. And it all started here with the original film.
All right. Good pick for this list.
Quentin Tarantino said it was his favorite film of the previous 2 decades in 2009.
I don't know if this is urban legend or not, but supposedly he was responsible for that being like brought to America. Like I don't think it was never banned in America. It just was never released.
I think he championed it, and that's probably where it ends.
I have seen this movie. I don't want to talk about that right now, but I remember being sold to me as like, oh, this movie's banned in America.
Sure.
And I was like, I don't think that's the case, but so.
I don't think it was either. It was just hard to find. You had
exactly.
to import it before it was officially brought over.
Right. All right. My number 5 is a 1989 movie called UHF. This is Weird Al's now first movie, we can say. In this movie, Weird Al takes over a low band UHF TV station, and he finds out by just putting a bunch of weird programming on, he can kind of save the station. This is sort of a snob versus slob style movie where he's trying to save his little TV station from a big corporate takeover. And one of the weird shows he puts on there, amongst other things, is called Wheel of Fish, where people spin a giant wheel and then they win fish. It's pretty much exactly what you think of it to be, with like elements of what's the one where you have to guess what's in the box, the behind door number 2 and all those kind of games. So
Sure.
It's a short segment in a movie that has a plot, but it's pretty much just a bunch of sketches and parodies and, Weird Al's crazy ideas on screen, but it's fun.
Would you guys ever go on a game show?
Yeah. I mean, depends on what it is, probably.
Yeah. Like, are we talking like a trivia game show? Or are we talking like a climb on a greasy pole to get a flag game show?
That's a game show? They have those?
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, like Double Dare.
Oh, okay. What game show would you want to go on?
What game show? Ooh.
I think Price is Right would be pretty fun. I watched a lot of Price is Right when I was younger. It seems fun and like not all that serious unless somebody's cheating.
Megan wanted to sign me up for The Mole.
Okay.
I don't know if I do well on The Mole or not.
The Mole only had like 2 seasons of normal people, and then they turned it into a celebrity show.
No, it's back on Netflix.
With normal people?
They rebooted it. Yeah.
Oh,
with
really?
normal people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I used to love The Mole. It was
back in the day.
Yeah.
The Netflix version is fun, but they cut it to make you watch the next episode. So like it's like the original run, like each episode would be a complete show. Where, like,
had a conclusion.
They have the competition and someone would leave, right? And now it's cut where they like have cliffhangers. So you have like you get an incomplete episodes essentially.
That's a
so they kind of force you to like watch the next one. So like Megan and I we'd watch it and we'd watch like 15 minutes of the next one just to get a complete story.
Sure.
And then stop. So be prepared for that if you watch it.
That's annoying.
Nice.
What's your number 5, Zach?
It's a bingo. It's Battle Royale.
That's a bingo.
Wait, it's not. Kyle hasn't said Battle Royale.
Oh, I'm not going to say it, so you can just play it now. I hate that movie.
Well, it's a bingo in the sense of you also had it at number 5.
Yeah.
That's
James.
true.
It's not
That's
a double
a
bingo.
bingo.
Yeah, I thought this movie actually had some artistic merit to it. It was interestingly presented with pretty rough topic, I guess. But yeah, it was interesting.
My brain, like in 2000, when this came out, I'm sure I didn't watch it in 2000. It was probably like 01, 02, 03, something like that by the time I got to see it. I think like my brain could handle that type of subject matter. I just have no, like if somebody brought that movie to me today, I probably wouldn't watch it. Because it just sounds too, I think I've become sensitive in my older age. You know what I mean?
It's dark.
To like not wanting to put certain things in my brain. And that would be one of them, I would say. I don't know. Anyway, my number 4 is The Running Man from 1987, which Kyle mentioned. I don't have much to add other than I think it's a fun Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, one of his earlier ones. Like, is this pre or in the same kind of time frame? We're talking 87. When was Terminator, original Terminator?
84.
Okay. So original Terminator had happened, but Terminator 2 hadn't happened.
No, I would say this is him on the rise.
Right. Predator was 86, I think. So
or maybe the same year. It was right around the same as this one.
Sure.
So yeah, he was definitely like on the upswing of his career.
He was
at this
becoming
point.
a superstar.
Exactly.
Rapidly, I would say.
I think Commando was maybe 86.
The only thing Kyle didn't mention that I find interesting about this is that it precursors, however you say that, a lot of competition race reality shows. You know what I mean? Like Amazing Race and that type of stuff. Not that they're exactly the Running Man, but it predicts a future where people will sit at home and watch television shows of like people racing against each other. And kind of like the sensationalized version of that, which clearly reality shows never became sensationalized versions of themselves. But this movie visualizes that. It's the first time I ever saw it. I'm sure maybe something came before this, but this is the first example of it that I can think of. The Running Man. Also, I'm just reading on Wikipedia. It was written by Richard Bachman. Do you guys recognize that name at all?
I do recognize that name, but I don't know from where.
It's Stephen King's pen name.
Oh, really?
Oh, I knew this. Yeah, I knew this was a Stephen King movie.
Yeah.
I thought I mentioned that.
Well, it's not a Stephen King movie.
King.
It's a Stephen Bachman movie or a Richard Bachman movie.
It's based on a Stephen King story. It's his pen name.
Right, but Richard Bachman is credited.
I know, right. But I think when people make a list of Stephen King movies, they often include Running Man in it.
That's weird because Stephen King didn't write it.
Oh my goodness.
Who's next?
Richard Bachman didn't write it either. He's not a real person.
Who's next?
All right.
I don't remember.
I'm next. Good
All right.
pick. Yep.
Yep.
All right. My number 4 is Magnolia from 1999. This is a Paul Thomas Anderson movie with a pretty stacked cast: Tom Cruise, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Julianne Moore, William H. Macy, John C. Reilly, other names you'd recognize. I don't remember this movie very well, to be completely honest. If in my memory, and I'm sure Zach might have this on his list, you have a bunch of characters who kind of have their own separate stories that have a lot of intersecting stories going on between that. I believe there is a whole game show at the center of it called like What Do Kids Know, which is like a kids trivia kids trivia show. And I think that's what connects most of the characters together. But the two things that really stand out from this movie was Tom Cruise's performance.
Mhm.
He plays like this new age guru motivational speaker. And I don't think he's not in this movie a ton, if I remember correctly, even though he's first build, but he has a really commanding performance. And then kind of the finale, which I don't want to spoil in case people haven't seen it before, because something very unexpected happens. That's sort of this shared experience between all the characters that sort of brings the whole thing together. Those are the two things that really stand out in this movie. But I remember liking it. I gave it 4 stars. But I can't tell you why I gave it 4 stars.
Okay, nice. My number 4 is Perfect Bid. The contestant who knew too much, and I like a good cheating documentary.
Sure. Soft cheating.
Yeah.
My number 3, the aforementioned quiz show, which Zach called out. And this one's great. Like a really solid drama with a great cast and interesting premise and cool performances. A little bit of how they do it, I would say, intrigue running through the entire thing. And yeah, great movie.
My number 3 is also Quiz Show.
That's a bingo.
Nominated for Best Picture, but did not win. What else do you have to say about it, Kyle?
I would say that this is the movie where I first recognized John Turturro and Ray Fiennes as like actual individual people, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Well, like when you see a movie and like you're like, oh, that guy has a face I'll remember.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had seen movies with John Turturro in it before, but I didn't know who he was. He was just like a face.
Mm-hmm.
And then like this movie, I was like, oh, who is this guy? He's very interesting. And then after this, I knew the names John Turturro and Ray Fiennes.
Nice.
Which I'm pretty sure I said Ralph Fiennes for like, a decade, but the internet corrected me eventually. But yeah, this is probably of all of our movies, at least of all my movies, this is one of the most actual game showiest because it's about a game show. And it's definitely about cheating. And it's definitely about a contestant being fed answers because the producers don't care for the current winner. So they want to get a younger, more attractive man on stage. I'll let you guess if the younger, more attractive person is John Turturro or Ray Fiennes.
Yeah. Okay, my number 3 is Slumdog Millionaire. I like this movie a lot. The conceit of the film is that Dev Patel's character is on a game show. I think it's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
It is.
Yeah. And he knows the answer of every question because he soft cheated by having a life that every event in his life provided the answer for these questions. And the actual like that element of it is really cheesy. You know, the fact that he's at a game show and everything has to do with the answer kind of a thing. But the movie is just really, it's affecting, I guess. Danny Boyle can make a good movie with interesting characters. And I like Slumdog a lot. It's funny. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is such a product of its time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Like it was the biggest thing at the turn of the century.
Mm-hmm.
And now, is it still on? It must still be on.
It's still on.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
It's changed
just
hosts a bunch of times, but it's still on.
Well, Regis Philbin's dead, isn't he?
You say that with such
No,
like
right? Like you're excited.
animosity. Yeah.
Sorry, is Regis Philbin dead?
Is that better?
Yeah, that is better,
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
What's Regis Philbin up to? If we prefer that one.
No.
Okay.
Go with the second one.
All right.
Don't
answer my question. Is he dead?
He's dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Very dead. My number 2 is The Hunger Games, which is, a battle royale ripoff, pretty much. Except it definitely has a stronger game show element where there's like a TV audience watching The Hunger Games, where these kids are forced to battle each other to the death. This one gives them like a full arena and like a bunch of rules that like battle royale doesn't necessarily go into. I think it has stronger themes and stronger character building, certainly stronger world building. Battle royale, one movie that eventually got a sequel. Hunger Games, based on a series of books that kind of had a template to work off of and build a bigger universe. That's why I like it better than Battle Royale. Not only that, but it's like Hollywood violence versus like kind of like more realistic violence, like the Japanese original version of the concept was. So Hunger Games was a little more palatable. Also, very popular actress Jennifer Lawrence got her start in this movie. Not her start. Became mega famous off the back of this movie.
Yes, exactly.
I saw her in 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter. I think she was in that show. But at that point, she was just random actress. It wasn't until Hunger Games where I was like, oh, okay. This is...
You're right. That was a movie that you recognize her as a face.
Right. And then I didn't think she was a full person until I saw her in Hunger Games. Then I acknowledged her existence. And then when she was in later movies, like I don't necessarily think she's a great actress in Hunger Games, but also the movie's not asking much. And then later on, when she was in those David O. Russell movies, she had like a sequence with him where like it was clear that like she's better than like teen centric action movies, I would say.
Yeah.
Melodramatic action movies. But anyway, essentially that's what Hunger Games is. It's just a melodramatic action movies aimed at teenagers. And I was well out of my teenage years when I watched it, and I still got a lot of enjoyment out of it. Even the third one that Kyle hated. My number 2.
I don't think she was in 8 Simple Rules.
What was she in? She was in some kind of television
Winter's
show.
Bone?
No, she was in a TV show.
She was in a TV show.
Yes.
Before all that.
Yep.
Winter's Bone, though, was the first time where I was like, wow, this person can act for sure.
Right. Yeah, she was definitely in a sitcom. Because wasn't 8 Simple Rules a John Ritter TV show?
Yeah, and then it kind of died after he died.
He died.
Bill
yeah.
Engvall show.
That could be it. The Bill, yeah.
Maybe.
That was he was like one of the who are those redneck comedians? What are they called? Like him and Larry the Cable Guy. You guys know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
There was like 4 comedians. They would tour around. They had some show.
Oh, like instead of the Rat Pack, they were like
They're like the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. That's what it was.
okay.
I think Bill Engvall was on the Blue Comedy Collar.
It must have been the Bill
Blue-collar
Engvall
comedy.
show.
Yeah. But it's that era. It was like early 2000s. She was on some sitcom.
That's a blast for the past.
Didn't X-Men come out before Hunger Games?
Yeah, X-Men came on 2000. But she's not an X-Men.
She's not?
She was
She's
in
in-
later X-Men.
Yeah, she's in like the kind of the timeline reboot X-Men.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was in First
Yeah.
Class, which came much later than the original.
No,
Rebe-
no. She was in it before that.
No,
It was
no. First Class was her first one because Rebecca
Really?
Romaine,
Rebecca
is
Romaine.
Mystique in the first three.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, her character was in it.
Yeah.
right.
All right.
And we can all agree Rebecca Romaine's the better Mystique of the two.
I don't know if I have a strong opinion.
I don't think I do either.
Ooh, I have an
Surprisingly.
opinion, and I will take Rebecca Romaine Mystique over Jennifer Lawrence Mystique any day.
There's a good chance Rebecca Romaine had a lot more to do than
What did Rebecca Romaine do that was superior?
I just think I think her Mystique was a more fleshed out character in the trilogy than Mystique you got from
Is this a double entendre?
X-Men. No,
Okay.
no, I'm not
Just
being
making
creepy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just making
No,
sure.
like I think her Mystique was more interesting. I also think in the like
Sounds
X-Men
creepy.
First Class, they tried to soften Mystique. Like they kind of made her like, didn't she try and become one of the good guys later in the series?
Yeah.
Because like they didn't want Jennifer Lawrence playing a bad guy. And I was like, no, Rebecca Romaine's Mystique was always the bad guy.
I don't remember. I need to rewatch them.
Okay.
I also need to rewatch The Hunger Games. My number 2.
Me too. I got to watch it.
I think
Well,
you'll like
a
it,
mo-
Zach. You'll be like, oh, why haven't I watched this already? This is fun. That's what you'll think while you're watching it.
All right. Let's do it.
My number 2 is a movie that I really like. It's a really good movie. It is not a movie that I'm going to rush out and rewatch, though. And that is 2000's Requiem for a Dream. This is directed by Darren Aronofsky. It stars Ellen Burstyn, Jared Leto, Jennifer Connelly, and Marlon Wayans. These are people who all are struggling with addiction of one kind or another. And this movie is about how addiction ruins each of their lives separately.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really hard movie to watch, but I think it's a really effective movie. It's stylistic too. I don't know if it invented the idea of like a bunch of quick shots of like people taking a drug and their eyes dilating, but that's definitely a stylistic choice that's been aped ever since this movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I always associate this movie as a game show movie because Ellen Burstyn, I remember, wants to be on TV on a game show. And she has this hallucination where like Christopher McDonald, Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore, as the game show host kind of comes into her living room and she believes she's on the game show. And her whole plot line is she gets addicted to amphetamines because she's trying to lose weight to wear a dress. I watched a clip of her hallucination. I read Wikipedia articles and plot summaries. I couldn't find anything that said that it was a game show she was trying to be on, just that she was trying to be on TV. Even the clips themselves, I couldn't tell if I was watching a game show or not. The only mention I could find of it was in like Reddit threads. People would be like, oh, on the game show. So I don't actually know if it was a game show or not.
It's a game
I was not
show.
going to watch the whole movie just to confirm it, but in my mind, it's a game show sequence.
It was.
So that's why
It's
I
a game
kept it on
show
the list.
sequence. I've seen
Okay,
it like
all right.
3 or 4 times. There's a game show sequence for sure.
It is. All right. Perfect. I just couldn't find any confirmation.
I
of
wouldn't
this
say it's a
besides my
big
memory.
part of the movie, but it's in there.
It's a big part of her story.
Wanting to be on TV is a big part of her story. Wanting to get on the game show, I don't remember if it's that specific.
Okay.
But
Great movie. Don't need to watch it again.
Yeah.
For a long time.
that's when when I
yeah.
watched like the 4 times I've seen it was in maybe the first 5 years after it was released, and then I haven't seen it
yeah.
since.
Yeah. It's you take it in those first couple times. You're like, all right, I'm good. This is a real downer.
That, and I remember
That's done very well.
I remember seeing it in a theater and loving it, and then watching it again with my dad,
Oh.
but watching the director's cut version, and there was a lot in the director's cut that was not in the theatrical release.
I mean, the theatrical release is NC-17, so I can only imagine what was in the director's cut.
Was the original NC-17? I don't even remember.
I'm pretty
that.
sure this movie's NC-17.
I don't know.
I doubt this got an R rating.
I didn't remember like the toy scene towards the end.
Oh, that's in the.
It's in the
I've
original,
seen
but
that.
it goes on a lot longer in the
Okay.
extended version.
I'm looking at IMDb, and it has an NC-17 rating.
Interesting. Wild.
Yeah.
Might be the only NC-17 movie I've ever seen in the theater.
Theatrical was definitely
That's
R,
what I
and then
thought.
there was an unrated version that's NC-17.
I'm pretty sure IMDb gives you the regular version of it, because there's a lot of movies that have unrated versions. You're not gonna see American Pie. It's gonna say unrated. I'm pretty sure Requiem for a Dream had an NC-17 rating, and the unrated director's cut is just unrated.
I don't know, but there's a lot of stuff, specifically the kind of harshest stuff.
Yeah.
That was left out of the version that I watched first.
Okay.
And then when I watched it with my dad, it was already going to be a challenging movie for him, and then it was very challenging. But I remember,
it's pretty. Yeah.
I think I've told the story on the podcast before. I wish I could remember his exact words, but it was something like, "I'm never taking another pill for the rest of my life." After we got done watching the movie, he said something like that.
That's funny. On Rotten Tomatoes, the rating is an R.
Interesting. IMDb gives it NC-17. James, what does Wikipedia say? I think we need a tiebreaker.
They don't give you the rating on Wikipedia.
Well, wouldn't that be useful information on a movie?
I think it's too controversial. It's, NC-17 R, who knows?
Let's see. If you go to releases on IMDb, sometimes they tell you the ratings.
It's just most theaters wouldn't have played it if it was NC-17.
Right.
I mean, I'm looking here, certificate NC-17. Yeah, I mean, did you guys see it in the theater? I didn't see it in the theater.
I saw it in a theater for the first time.
Oh, okay. Hold on. MPA, rated R. Okay, so I went to the parents' guide of IMDb, and they say the MPA rating is R.
Interesting. But another part of the website said NC-17.
If you go to like the home page for Requiem of a Dream, it says NC-17 at the top, and if you scroll down to certificate, it says NC-17. It's only on the parents' guide that you give an R rating.
Weird.
Okay, here's the story. You guys want to hear the story?
I want to hear the story, yes.
It was originally rated NC-17 by the MPAA. Okay, but Aronofsky appealed the rating, and the appeal was denied, and so he decided to release it unrated. But then when they released it on video, they released an R-rated version on video where they cut out a bunch of scenes, but the rest was identical to the unrated version.
So I saw the unrated version in the
So
theater
home
as
release,
well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, then I just didn't remember how those scenes. Then evidently, I would have never made my dad watch that if I remembered it.
I've also seen the scene you're talking about at the end with Jennifer Connelly. So I must have seen the unrated version too.
That was the most mortifying example of a scene in that movie that I didn't want to watch next to my dad.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
There were other scenes too, but that one is burned into my brain. It's very uncomfortable.
All right. Well, my number 2 is a bingo because it's Requiem for a Dream.
Oh, wow.
I have not
That's a
seen.
bingo.
I haven't seen the crazy versions you guys have seen. But the version I saw was harrowing enough just with how it deals with addiction is so awful. I think Ellen Burstyn, is it Ellen Burstyn?
It's Ellen Burstyn, yeah.
Her performance is one of my favorite film performances. I mean, she is so good in this movie.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. It's utterly heartbreaking, but it's really good. Yeah, she just does want to be on TV. That's why it's my number 2.
I want to talk to you after podcast to figure out what you saw, what you didn't see.
Okay.
Mostly with Jennifer Connelly. That's the only part I want to know if you've seen that part or not. Because I think for a lot of people, that's like the part that's burned in their brain. So
Gotcha.
We could do a second Patreon. Zach describes
that might
Requiem
need to
for a
stay a
Dream.
private conversation.
Okay, fair enough.
Is it my
James,
turn?
what's your number 1?
My number 1 is Slumdog Millionaire. Clearly.
My number 1 is also Slumdog Millionaire.
Clearly. I don't know how Zach didn't make this as number 1. I assumed all of us would have this as number 1.
Yeah.
Because it is clearly the best movie about a game show ever made. Danny Boyle movie starring Dev Patel. the first Danny Boyle movie that made me feel good, I think.
Yeah.
All his other ones are at least pre this movie were like lots of horror movies and Train Spotting and stuff like that. Horrific in its own ways.
The Beach.
Yeah. Yeah, this is based on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the Indian version of it. This kid who comes from no money, wants to be on the show. That's essentially what the movie's about, is him trying to get on the show, a little bit about him being on the show as well. And just a really heartwarming adventure, I would say. This kid goes on an adventure trying to get on this game show. And there's a little bit of a love story to it, light love story. And probably the first movie I've seen that ever like had the song and dance is only in the credits, right?
At the very end, there's a Bollywood style ending.
Right.
Yes.
That's probably the first time I ever saw a sequence like that in a movie. And it just introduced me to the idea of the fact that there's like this whole other film industry where that's like a big key of it. I think I learned from this movie, the popularity of this movie, that even existed. And I think it won didn't it win an Academy Award for Best Picture?
It definitely won for Best Song, which is Jai Ho, which is the song they danced to at the very end.
Right.
I think it won Best Picture.
I think it did too.
Yeah.
And I think it was well deserved. Fun movie. Slumdog Millionaire. You got anything to add, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit everything on the head there. I would say this movie also introduced America to Bollywood.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, my number one is Magnolia because I love that movie.
I kind of figured that would be his number one.
That movie's so good.
What's it about, Zach? I don't remember anything about this movie.
I've only seen it once. I'm sure I've said this before. I have to watch Magnolia again.
Yeah,
it's like 190 minutes. I was gonna watch it again for this episode. Like I don't have 3.5 hours or 3 hours. So,
well, but it doesn't ever drag because it's cutting between all these different stories.
Yeah.
That fit together more thematically than crossover. I mean, they do all crossover in different ways, complicated ways, but yeah, thematically they fit more. But yeah, one of the characters is a game show host, and one of the characters is a game show contestant. And one of the characters is a former game show contestant.
Okay.
So that's the connection between this thing
going on.
Well, it's the same game show. It's just from 3 different perspectives, kind of.
Are they like main characters? Or there's like a ton of characters in that movie, right?
A ton of characters. William H. Macy is a former child game show contestant.
Okay.
And another kid is a current game show contestant on a kid's game show. And then another character is the host of that same game show. But yeah, it's awesome. So good. The acting is incredible. The writing's good. I love it. It's so good. But definitely has a game show.
I got to rewatch it.
You do.
John
C. Reilly's awesome.
Yeah, I think this is the movie where I recognize John C. Reilly as a individual person.
Yeah.
You confirmed his humanness.
Well, no, it's just it's you see a movie, you're like, oh, who is that person? I'm interested by what they're doing, and then you remember who they are.
Sure.
Versus just being like, oh yeah, that was a face in this movie, and move on from it.
Nice. I recently rewatched The Master, and makes me want to rewatch P.T. Anderson's entire filmography.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. If only there was more time in the day. I could just.
Well, Philip Seymour Hoffman is in Magnolia.
Yeah. He was in The Master too.
That's why I mentioned it.
He was also in Mission Impossible 3.
Makes sense. Which was not directed by P.T. Anderson.
No, but also stars Tom Cruise.
That's true.
I have made this. I don't know why. This is my personal crusade.
Mm-hmm.
You know, IMDb trivia.
Crusade?
Huh?
Personal crusade?
Crusade. Yeah. Yeah. IMDb trivia. Anyone can edit it, right? And I like reading. I like reading the trivia, but I hate it when people write like, I don't know, Philip Seymour Hoffman and Tom Cruise also starred in Mission Impossible 3 together. Like, okay, it's not helpful trivia. That's just like dumb trivia. So I just have started thumbing down all those comments. Like, put them on the bottom. No one needs to know that. No one cares.
I think that's good trivia.
I don't think
I have no problem with that trivia.
It's not really trivia.
It's not trivia. It's just like, I don't know. For me, trivia is like when they're filming the scene so and so, or like the inspiration for this was blah blah blah. Like that's interesting. That I guess that's like trivia if you're playing like movie connections or whatever. But it's not. It can live on the bottom. You can scroll down to find that stuff. It doesn't need to be up there with the good stuff.
No, I agree. It can be towards the bottom.
Yeah,
I think it deserves to be on the list.
that's fine. I'm not deleting it. I'm just thumbing it down to put it in its place.
What if it said like, this is Tom Cruise's third shortest movie? Would that be trivia?
I would probably downvote that one.
Yeah, that would be trivia.
Right.
It's not
like
trivia though.
It's not really trivia. It's just a
what if it's
truth?
Hold on. Well, trivia by definition is stupid truth. But what if it was his shortest movie? Is that worthwhile trivia?
That's
this is
worthwhile.
Tom Cruise's shortest movie.
Sure.
Yeah, if you say third shortest, like great, okay.
If Tom Cruise almost never duplicated cast members between movies, then I would say it's worthy of noting. But it's not like Tom Cruise is known for like being in movies with completely different people every movie.
Well, except for his franchises, I think he is, right?
I mean, all he does is franchise.
All he does
now,
is
so it's hard to-
franchises.
Yeah.
Yeah, but except for those.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's not a guy who does that.
Well, like, I see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say, okay, so who's the guy in never mind. I don't want to play this game where I don't know people's names.
I know. Yeah. I get you.
Yeah. But had I know their names, I would have made a really good point. So yeah, Magnolia's my number one.
All right.
Nice.
Cool. Well, that was our top.
Oh, Crusade. I get you now.
Oh my god.
Oh, you didn't get it before?
Way
No,
slow.
you kept saying Crusade.
Oh
I was just like, I don't
gosh.
know what are you talking about right now.
Kyle played along
that's-
when he didn't.
Wow, he
actually understand.
really played
I
along
know.
for sure.
Totally sorry. Oh boy.
It's
been a long episode.
For sure. That was our top 10 game show movies. If we missed any, please let us know. That was like, I considered UHF. I considered, what was the other one? Mallrats. But there just wasn't much to choose from. But I feel like, like there are a lot more. It's just hard to research, I would say.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you for listening to this episode 655 of the Cinereelists. We appreciate your listenership. Don't forget, check out the video version on YouTube, support us on Patreon, leave us an Apple Podcast review, or send us the listener email to heyguys@cinereelist.com. Links to do any of those things are in the description. You could also follow us on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok @Cinereelists. You could also follow me on my personal Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, or Blue Sky account @YoJRB.
You can follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd @Schaubin.
You can find me on Letterboxd @PeterSKB.
We will be back next week with, we don't know for sure exactly what. It might be The Substance. So if you haven't seen that yet and you want to see it before you hear us talk about it, go check that out. The Substance might also be the following week. We don't know for sure if it's going to be next week or the week after. Point is, we don't know for sure what's next week, but either next week or the week after will be The Substance. So if you haven't seen that movie and you want to, check it out. Feel like I just repeated myself. Doesn't matter. We're done with this episode. 655 in the books. We'll see you next time. Until then, keep it cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.